expect nothing and accept everything. I try to live by that because and when I say accept everything, I don't mean just like put up with anything and everything. But if you really have like no expectations, expect nothing, but then accept everything. Like whatever's happening right now is happening right now. And then it's just like you can't control that. You can't control what is happening necessarily, but you can control how you react to it, and you can control how you look at it in a way, and how you put energy into the world from what is happening right now.
Today on Loves Music, I speak with veteran songwriter Kyle Blankenship. Kyle Blankenship is working on a new project called Flip the Mule with fellow songwriter Tyler Bandy. The sound could be categorized as indie folk. Think My Morning Jacket meets Band of Horses, plus something completely different. It's beautiful songs, great songwriting. I can't wait to share this interview with you all. If you like what you've been hearing so far, make sure you check me out on all platforms, and please like, share, tell somebody who loves music. Up next, all the way from Nashville, Kyle Blankenship. Kyle, all the way from Nashville, man. Such a pleasure to connect with you.
Yeah, you too, man. Thanks so much for having me.
No, man, I love the project. Flip the Mule. It looks like you guys are just getting out of park. You have 2 singles out. This Old House and Cool. Love both of them. I was trying to explain your sound. I was getting folk vibes, kind of Band of Horses, but you guys are doing something a little different. I would call it alternative folk, but I also don't want to misrepresent the sound. How would you describe your sound?
Yeah, I think we've been sort of in our marketing calling it indie folk rock.
Okay, that makes sense.
But I in my mind, we're a rock and roll band. I always sort of go back to that. That's sort of where my roots are at, and I think we sort of aspire to be that, especially live. It's a rock and roll band, but yeah, there's definitely a lot of folk elements in there, Americana kind of thing. But yeah, I think the alternative folk or indie folk rock, I think those are where it lies.
It's one of the things about getting older is in a few seconds or a minute or so, you kind of get a good idea of who's in front of you. You've been in the world long enough, and so when I got a chance to speak with you, I heard the music and it had like a youthful sound. I was like, oh, this is a younger guy. Then I saw a picture and I'm like, no, this guy's my age. And then I start listening and I was like, maybe he's an older guy who's just getting started. And I'm like, oh no, this is a seasoned musician. So now as I start going through the catalog, I think I know what I'm going to hear. And I was surprised every step of the way. I was like, you have your 2 songs, you have your solo stuff. And so now I'm not sure who's sitting in front of me. Because like the songwriting is so rich. I mean, you're like a veteran songwriter. Is that correct?
It is. Yeah. I started writing in my early teenage years. And once I discovered that, like once I figured out that was a thing, there was really no turning back. I mean, that has sort of been my, that's really what's kept me going. I'm a multi-instrumentalist, and I've played a lot of different instruments in different bands over the years. And but man, songwriting and that creative process is really sort of what scratches my itch, if you will.
So Flip the Mule is you and Jamison Bandy. You have the 2 songs.
But yeah. It's So it's funny. Everything online. His name is Jamison Tyler Bandy, right? And so, but he goes by Tyler, so we can just call him Tyler on here. But yeah, okay. Man, Tyler Bandy. Yeah, Tyler Bandy, and we're lifelong friends. We grew up together. We've probably known each other since we were like 12, 13 years old. We started playing music together when we were about 15. So if we're doing the math on that. I mean, we're at about 25 years here.
Wow.
So
yeah, man.
And sort of off and on, but for the most part, it's been consistent. I mean, we've always continued to write together, regardless of what other projects we had going on. We've always been writing songs throughout this 25 years and bouncing ideas off of one another. And yeah, he really is just like a lifelong musical partner. And I mean, he's my best friend in the world. It's great.
I like that there's such a big disparity between your solo stuff and the Flip the Mule stuff. I mean, you take This Old House. The first thing I hear is singing chops. I'm like, oh, this dude can sing. It's giving me like Dan and Shay energy, which in my opinion, they're the best voices in the genre, not named Chris Stapleton. So you have this like crisp, like vocal with chops, but then the storytelling is just like I need a minute. Like, give me a minute with this song. Like, it's what was the inspiration between this old house? Because there's a hint of sadness, but it's also hopeful as well.
Oddly enough, and thank you also for the kind words, man. Thank you for the that was a conscious, intentional choice that we made to start it out with the acapella, the 3-part harmonies there, and we're really happy with the way that sounds and how it turned out. But yeah, as far as the story of the song, I mean, it is very, very much it's 100% true story. Which you talk to songwriters all the time. I mean, we certainly take creative liberties when we're telling stories sometimes. And a lot of sometimes, and that's really the cool thing about songwriting too, as opposed to writing books or writing, for books, if you go to a bookstore, there's a nonfiction section and a fiction section and a same for when you go to movie stores back in the day, they'd all be, but with songs, it doesn't have to be that way. Some of it can be true, some of it can be not so true, and that's great. But no, this one is 100% true. Every line of these verses are true. And so I was driving one night, and you know how it is when you're driving at night and you're just focusing on the road. And I live out in the country, so you're always making sure there's not deer jumping out in front of you, that sort of thing, But no, man, I'm just driving, watching the road, and then I see a little something flickering out of the corner of my eye, and I look over, and it's obviously a fire. And then it just sort of dawns on me, I'm looking at my childhood home that I grew up in, like completely up in flames, and it was a strange feeling, because I'm very blessed and fortunate to have had so many. I've grown up around so much family, and I've always had so many people who cared about me. However, there were certainly some difficult times in my childhood, and in that particular time when I lived in that house, some difficult times, and so I sort of had a difficult relationship with that house, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
And so it's funny, man, because you're like, oh no, that's my house burning, but then you're like, well, let it burn,
Yeah, right.
And so yeah, man, and I immediately came home and got to brewing on that. As far as I knew immediately I was going to write about this, and maybe not so directly as I did, but I knew I was going to write about it. I knew I was going to, because that's just my way of addressing things, and as it is with most writers. And so, yeah, man, and it was one of those, and they're not all like this, but it was one of those that was just, I mean, I probably wrote this song in 10 minutes.
I believe
it all just flowed out immediately. And that was, and I've really been sitting on it for a few years, really trying to figure out just the right sound for it. It was one of those that I just wrote on acoustic guitar, and I tend to, I like to write that way, where it's just me and the acoustic or me and the piano. But then I really like to build stuff out and try to make it into like what is really the best avenue of sound for this particular set of lyrics and emotion. And so really, really happy with how it turned out. And I definitely do not always write so direct like that. But man, when it happens, you just gotta, when the magic happens, man, you just have to ride that wave,
Yep. It doesn't happen often, but sometimes there are those moments you put your pen on the paper and then 10 minutes later there's a song sitting there and be like, I'm not exactly sure if I wrote this. Like the song just happened,
Yeah. And that is it's one of the best feelings in the world, really. And it's hard to explain it to other people who are not creative people. Yeah. And so if you get it, you get it, but it's people who don't get it, sometimes it's hard to explain. But that is also one of the great things about music and art in general. There is this universal language kind of thing to it, and so that's sort of the beauty of it. And I love that about songs in particular, how you can listen to a song, it can mean something to you, and then it can mean something totally different to the next person, or from the writer to the listener mean two totally different things.
Absolutely.
And they're all correct.
It could mean something different in a different context. Songs I heard when I was 20 don't even sound the same when I'm 40. Like they're just, same song.
Absolutely.
It just means something different.
Totally.
And the thing is, I heard Our Old House first, and to set the bar so high, I'm like, wow. I was like, all right, so we knocked it out of the park. I guess it's downhill from here. And then I heard Cool, and Cool is like 3 great songs in one. You have the narrative about your daughter if she grows up and she can think for herself, and then Cool. And then you have the one, if me and my friends stop talking and I have to break my own rule, Cool. And I'm like, man, dude, first off, I say that all the time. Like when it's kind of like my Let It Be. It's like that. Cool.
You nailed it. I mean, you absolutely nailed it. And you're right about that sort of became the idea of it too, with having the different verses and how they all sort of tie together in a way, but they are all their own separate thing also. And it's funny because both of these songs, Cool being the first Flip the Mule single and then followed up with Our Old House, neither one of these songs have a chorus. They're both just all verses. Cool has the big bridge, the big psychedelic bridge,
which is really cool, no pun intended.
And it's just I feel like they're both just straight to the point, and again, probably not intentional, but that's how it turned out. But Cool was, that was one of those processing what's happening in the world kind of songs for me, right? And so really just trying to I mean, there's so many things that we can't control that are just completely out of our control. We can do nothing about. And I have really tried, and a lot of the times I'm unsuccessful, but I've really tried to just let those things be and, focus on what I can control and what's right in front of me. And so Cool was sort of my way of, I think, just sort of saying that out loud for myself. To where it's just like, hey, if this happens, maybe it's like this, maybe it's like that, but at the end of the day, cool. And man, I'm really proud of that one too, and I'm glad you listened to it, man. Thank you.
Yeah, I see it as almost like acceptance without complacency. Because you could be like, cool as in I don't care. Or you can be, like you said, cool with a level of sophistication and more critical thinking. Like, okay, I'm accepting this reality as it is. I'm accepting what I can't. I'm accepting what I can control as things I can control, and things I can't, I'll let it be. But it's not like I don't care. It's not an apathetic cool. It's like, it's I've accepted this with a level of sophistication, or at least
that's it. That's very much it. I even I posted a thing like a reel or something on TikTok. I can't remember, but it was basically saying that it was like, because I think I got a little bit of feedback in the beginning. It was like, oh man, it's so cool that you can just not care about all of these things. And I was like, well, no, it's actually that I care so much.
Right.
That I'm not going to participate in the endless negative rat race that is online all day, every day, And so I think it was more so of that. And it was also me really trying to, I know I say the thing about breaking my own rule and stuff like that. I think it was a lot of trying to expect nothing and accept everything. I try to live by that because and when I say accept everything, I don't mean just put up with anything and everything. But, if you really have no expectations, expect nothing, but then accept everything, whatever's happening right now is happening right now, and then it's just you can't control that. You can't control what is happening necessarily, but you can control how you react to it, and you can control how you look at it in a way, and how you put energy into the world from what is happening right now.
Absolutely. It reminds me of one of my favorite sayings, life is hard, and expecting it to be easy makes it harder. So it's managing these expectations that yes, things are going to be difficult, and we can prepare, we can manage our attitudes, we can manage our mindsets, and then we can control our reactions, And if we,
Yeah.
and even if all we did was manage those handful of things, the quality of our life goes like this.
That's it, man. And I can't remember where I heard. I certainly didn't make that up. That like, expect nothing and accept everything. But I heard that somewhere, and that just really stuck with me. And but yeah, "Cool" was really the first. It was the first song that was like, once we it was like, hey, we're going to do this thing, Flip the Mule.
Yeah.
And this was really the first one that was written for it. And then we wrote a whole bunch of other ones, and went back and forth on kind of which one we were going to launch first. Like, man, this was the first one. Let's just launch this one, and it was good because it's a pretty good representation, I think, of because there's a lot, sonically, there's a lot of different stuff going on in there, and so I think it's a good representation of all the stuff to come of our, different kind of vibes that we're going to be about.
It still functions as a single, even though it doesn't have a definitive chorus. It does have a singability and a repeatability to it. Kind of sticks in your head a little bit. Like I don't think it's a bad idea to launch at all.
Yeah, thanks, man. Yeah, and then with these next few, because right now that's sort of early on here. That's sort of our plan. Is just we're gonna just continue to roll out singles at first. We've got some shows coming up that we're gonna be doing, and just kind of keep rolling out singles. But the next few, like these two, I feel like have they go together.
Yeah.
Right, Cool and Our Old House.
Nice one.
Very much same kind of vibe. These next few will be a little bit of a change of pace. It will be a little bit more on that folk rock kind of side, and so I'm excited, man.
It's an interesting next step in the progression because I listen to your solo stuff too, and that's like, that is an eclectic mix of music. You have songs that sound like Ray LaMontagne, Morning Jacket. You have Mama's Mooncake. That could have been, if you would have told me that was an Elton John cover, I'd believe you. That's the diversity and quality of your songwriting. And that was your solo project, or is that with there's a number in the band, you and the 85 or something, or?
Yeah, the last 84. And so that's to back up a little bit. We Tyler and I, which we talked about, which is my partner, Flip the Mule, we had a band sort of coming out of high school and all the way through the sort of like early 2010s,
Okay.
called The Good Side.
Okay.
And we played, really just like we're weekend warriors kind of thing. We played all around the Southeast region of the US. And yeah, it was great, man. And so we did that for a long time. And then we sort of pushed pause on that. And I joined a band I was playing bass in.
Okay.
And it was called Lines for Real. And had, a little bit of moderate success with that band. And then when that ended around like 2014, I sort of took a big break from music, and at least from pursuing music. And so I got married in 2014. We had our daughter in 2015. And so I was really just sort of starting my life, even though I was 30, I was sort of starting my adult life at that time, because really my entire 20s was just rock and roll.
Yeah, I totally.
And so yeah, man. And I took a few years off, to really reassess and just see like how do I want to keep doing this moving forward? Because it's not one of those, I can't this is who I am. I can't stop doing this. Right. And so, but when you start a family, sometimes I think you do have to really push pause for a second and say, okay, how do we make this work in a way that's healthy for everyone? Right. And so I took some time off. And then in 2019, after about 5 years of not really pursuing anything, I really sort of started writing again. And I'd always been writing, but really sort of got serious again about writing. I'd never released anything under as a solo artist before.
Okay.
And so released the first single, which was a song that I wrote for my daughter. It's called Lucy Baby. And then from there, really got the itch again, to get after it. And so shortly after that, I had a ton of songs. And so, man, let's go in and make a solo album. and also released that in 2019 at the end of 2019. And that's the Nowhere to Be Found, the
Right.
one with the pink
Yeah,
cover.
pink and black.
And
Yeah.
so yeah, man. And from there, started playing shows as a solo artist, but had a band that was playing with me, and it was all the same guys pretty regularly. And so live, we started to bill it as Kyle Blankenship in the Last 84.
That makes sense.
And then when we got around to making the second solo album, all of those guys were heavily involved in that process. And so my live band from the first solo album played on the second solo album.
Yeah.
And so that's why we sort of build that second album as Kyle Blankenship of the Last 84 as well. And then did some shows supporting that second album as well. And then from there, again, I was sort of in a position to where I was like, man, let's do we want to keep doing the solo thing? Do we want to? Because I'll tell you, being a solo artist is, at least for me, I don't want to, this is probably different for other folks, but from my perspective, for me, being a solo artist is easier. It's very much easier.
Sure.
However, it's not near as fun. It's way more fun to be in a band, you know?
Yo, you're like speaking to my soul right now, man. I'm like surrounded by all these musicians. I want to collaborate, but there's nothing easier than just going in there with an engineer. But it's also not as fun without my like brother
and I'm pretty,
my boys.
I produce as well. And so like as a solo artist, man, I mean, I can, for the most part, I can make a record here at home, you know? And so, but again, it's not as fun. And so initially with Flip the Mule, the idea was it was really still going to be a solo project. But I was going to do it under a moniker.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that would probably give me a little bit more freedom as well, because I do have, you know, as an adult, there's sometimes maybe, and this may be right or wrong, but there's sometimes things I might want to say that maybe I don't want to just have Kyle Blankenship across that, right?
Yeah.
And so and maybe I should, you know, buck up and just be ready to stand behind whatever I say. But I don't know. That was really the idea initially. It's like, man, I want to present this as a band, while still really just doing the solo thing.
Okay.
And it quickly became, collaborating with Tyler. And I will say too, Tyler is responsible for co-writing, you know, a handful of songs on both of those solo albums as well. And so he played guitar on both of them. He was heavily involved in both of those albums. So we've, and continuing with that collaboration, Flip the Mule became clear immediately that this was a duo thing, right? Like we were doing this together. And so it's cool. We have a live band, you know, with 3 other cats. You know, we got a drummer, a bass player, and a guy that plays keys. And so Tyler plays guitar, electric guitar. I mostly just play acoustic guitar and sing. And of course, you can tell from the first 2 singles, a ton of vocals.
Yeah,
you know,
but it's sharp, like very crisp vocals.
Yeah, a lot of harmonies. Yeah. There's always going to be a ton of harmonies on there, and maybe we'll get into talking about influences and how I got to that. But almost
like Fleet Fox energy. You know what I mean? Like Fleet Foxes have like that folky sound, but like they have like Beach Boy level harmonies. Like
yeah, and that's, I mean, so much of my background and the stuff I sort of came up on initially just was full of harmonies.
Yeah,
you know?
Let's talk about it. Like, what kind of stuff were you coming from?
First, I mean, I come from a very musical family, and so, and I say that not everyone was musicians necessarily, but both sides of my family, my mom's side and my dad's side, both sets of my grandparents, even some great grandparents that I knew, and aunts and uncles, everyone had like this deep love for music, right? And it was just a present thing everywhere I went as a kid. I don't ever remember, you know, it was just, there was music playing everywhere, and it was just this joyful experience, you know, and everyone loved music. And so that I think is a big part of, who I am, and why I am who I am. My mom is a piano player,
Mm.
a very good piano player, and my uncle, on my dad's side, was a drummer. I mentioned our band, The Good Side, earlier that Tyler and I had. My uncle Kevin was the drummer in The Good Side, and so yeah, man, just around music all the time. But early on, I was really into, and then I think a lot of this is because of my mom being a piano player. But you mentioned Elton on the Mamas on a
Yeah.
Moon kick, Elton, Billy Joel, and then like Motown stuff. Like that was all. I didn't get into rock and roll until I was probably closer to my teenage years. And so, but man, Elton, which don't get me wrong, Elton and Billy are
Yeah.
very much
Yeah.
rock and
That's
roll,
yeah.
right? But that piano stuff, I mean, and I started out playing piano. Well, I started out singing. I was just a singer, and I was performing in shows with a mic in my hand when I was like 4 or 5 years old.
Wow. Okay.
And so, as a little kid, I was singing early on, and then got into playing piano because I mean, my mom was playing. We had an old upright in the house. I spent a lot of time in my grandmother's house. There was a piano in there, and so just completely self taught. I probably picked up a few things from just watching my mom play and stuff, but yeah, I never took any formal lessons or anything like that. Most of it was all just me sitting down and hammering it out. My mom had a ton of like chord books,
Yeah.
that would have
Yeah.
songs in them.
Mhm.
And of course, I had no idea. I had no idea what I was doing, but eventually I started putting some pieces together, and that's how music was for me. When it came to playing and learning, it was like, okay, like it was like a puzzle. It was like, oh, well,
Yeah.
this fits over here, and if I do this, well, then that fits really well with that.
Nice.
And so and it was just all by ear and figuring that out
Mhm.
and singing along to stuff. And
Mhm.
like I said, there was harmonies. My mom's family was very religious, and so I grew up sort of like in the Southern Baptist church kind of thing, and so harmonies, man, all over that place, and
Closely related to Motown. I mean, a lot of that Motown stuff has roots in gospel, so it makes sense.
yeah,
It makes
absolutely,
sense that
man.
it made
So
sense in your ear, as you're taking on
yeah,
stuff in.
the Temptations were like I mean, I loved the Temptations
So
as a
good.
kid.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All
man,
the
and well,
smoky stuff.
still do.
Yeah. Was there a time that you made a definitive switch from being like, hey, I love music, listening to it, playing it, to being like, oh no, I'm a musician. I can actually make a livelihood with this.
I don't know if that was like a switch thing because I really don't ever remember not doing this. Like I've been doing this since I was so young, and really I feel like early on in my life knew that I was sort of headed for this one way or another, right? And there have been moments where it's like um I think at becoming a teenager and really getting my hands on the guitar,
Mhm.
that was something. You know what I mean? That was
Yeah.
that was something. It was like, oh, this is. I've been sitting just playing piano and like singing softly, and but once rock and roll got a hold of me, man, there was no turning back. There was just no turning back.
There's something that you said earlier, and I don't even think you meant to say it as a point. I think it was just within the context of what you were explaining. But you said, I had to figure out a healthy way to do this. And I think so many musicians go into it saying, I'm going to make it at all costs, at the expense of their health, at the expense of their relationships, at the expense of their family, their sanity, even. How do
Yeah.
you manage, right? With music being such a big part of your role and identity, how do you manage stability, health, and still chase this dream so fervently and enthusiastically?
It's definitely not always easy, and I think for me, I've tried to find a good balance that works for me and my family. And I won't necessarily go into the specifics of that because it's just a lot. It's a lot. But I think dreaming big is important, and I think everyone should do it. I think it's important to also be where your feet are, and I've tried to to just keep pushing, and I think that's more than anything, that's where it's at, right? You have to just keep pushing towards it, and not worry so much about the timeline of it all.
Mm.
I think the most important thing is, especially when you have other responsibilities, when you have a family, or when you have whatever it is, if you have a full-time job or whatever other responsibilities you have, I think you have to take care of your business in those respects. And honestly, first and foremost, you got to take care of your business. However, you just have to keep moving forward with
Yeah.
with the music thing, or whatever your art is. If you're pursuing art in any kind of way, I think the most important thing is just to keep moving, right? And because if you hit the brakes for too long, if and it's okay to hit the brakes, it's okay to, even if you have to push pause completely,
Yeah.
even if you have to push reset completely,
Yeah.
all that's totally fine. I've done both of those things multiple times, but I think it's important to not stay there for too long, right? Don't stay in pause mode for too long. Don't stay in reset for too long. Just keep moving forward. And usually at least for me, I never want to, speak for a large, group of artists, or everyone, but like for me, it has really just sort of always worked itself out as long as I've sort of kept moving, right? And so opportunities sort of always come if you're at the door. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? But if
Great.
you're not at the door, and again, I think it's totally okay to, if you have to reassess or whatever that is, whatever that looks like. But yeah, for me, that's been a huge part of it for me, is really figuring out. And I wish I had a better answer to your question as far as like specifically how I do that. I really don't know. I don't. I think it's just life, man.
Yeah.
You see this gray in the beard, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
it's just
Yeah.
it's all that. I think it's life, and I think it.
I think to call it life would actually discount your agency in the matter. I think it's values. I think that you made a decision, maybe conscious or unconsciously, to say, these are the things that are important to me. And you still keep, and
Yeah,
despite how much you love music, which you certainly do, it's whatever your beliefs are, whatever your family is, whatever how you've decided to raise your daughter. You just a daughter, one daughter?
just one daughter.
Yeah.
Yeah,
However you decide to raise your daughter, all these things are sitting here. And it's like, yes, I'm going to pursue this music as a professional, but not at the expense of this. And it wasn't
yeah,
like this deep, intricate thing. I think you just made a decision deep down inside. And that's what's kind of kept you balanced. So when I'm trying to ask for specific answers, you're like, this is just kind of who I am. And that's what values are. There is no compromise,
yeah.
you know?
I think you're right. Yeah. And maybe I've never really even thought of it that way myself. But yeah, I think you nailed it. I think it is just and man, I've done it. Like I've worked jobs, and whatever it takes, but like I said earlier, I mean, when you can dedicate your life to music
Mhm.
without, like you said earlier, how some folks are just like, at all costs, no, nothing else. This is just 100% pedal to the floor. That's cool. If you do that, honestly, my hat's off to you if you do that. But you can dedicate your life to music without doing that
Yeah.
also, right? And that's sort of where I'm at.
Yeah.
So it's like, even this weekend I was out on the road, playing guitar for another band, which I do that too, and so it's but man, I told, like we were talking before we started rolling, like I drove all night long
Yeah.
to get back this morning so I could wake my daughter up and take her to school.
Mhm.
And so whereas I could have just stayed an extra night and came, but it's that stuff matters to me. And so it's not, sometimes, and the older we get, it hurts a little bit more. It takes a little bit longer to recover, but man, being home this morning and waking her up and taking her to school after doing my thing for 2 nights playing shows. I mean, man, that's living the dream.
Yeah,
Like
man.
that's living the dream, man.
Nobody is on their deathbed saying, I wish I slept more, or I wish I spent less time with my kids, like,
Oh, dude. Yeah.
Mm.
And it's so cool. my wife is super super cool, and she's super supportive of everything that I've always, and we've been together for a long time. We grew up together, and so she's sort of been on this journey with me the entire time, and she's always been nothing but supportive, and I couldn't do it without her.
Absolutely.
And so yeah, man,
Shout out to the wives, man. For sure.
good. It's good.
Absolutely. Give me an example of a tough day for you or a challenge that you've had to overcome. Because I mean, you seem like you do everything so prolifically and effortlessly. And I want to hear what a tough day looks like in your world and how you overcome it.
I wear a lot of hats and juggle a lot of different responsibilities day to day. And so, and this really ties into what we were just talking about just keeping moving forward as a musician or as an artist. Man, it's real easy sometimes at the end of the day to, all right, well, I'm gonna just chill and watch some TV or whatever. I'm gonna do this or do that, and I'm not gonna go pick up the guitar and write today. I'll do it tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
And I very much struggle with that.
Mm.
That's really, and even though I mean I love this, but man, when you're juggling a lot of different responsibilities, doing a lot of different things, I think it's important to block that time, and that's sort of how I approach it now. That's sort of how I overcome that. I really try to block out my day. I try to schedule everything in my day, and I don't always nail it. Sometimes I just either get behind, or I just skip it altogether, or I skip something else I don't need to skip. But that's how I overcome it. But that is one of my biggest challenges, I think, is because and I will say, even though I'm juggling different things, I'm usually at home.
Okay.
All of my work that I do is at home. And so, man, it's so easy sometimes to just be like,
It is.
I'll do that tomorrow, and but that's not good, right? It's
But then it gets easy,
so I try to
easier to do that the more you do it.
yeah. And so that is certainly a struggle for me. That is just staying I don't know the word, but really just discipline, probably. I think, just
discipline. It's all under that umbrella of discipline.
Yeah, just staying disciplined, and I feel comfortable saying that because I know I'm not alone in that. I know, and it's not just musicians, man.
No, everybody
it's
working remotely is like, yep, that's
yeah. And so staying disciplined when it comes to music, especially, because yeah, man, it's just not always easy, and but like I said, I think blocking out the times, that helps me. So for anybody who might be listening to this, and looking for ways to overcome that sort of thing, I'm just like, okay, this hour or whatever, I'm gonna try to write. I'm gonna focus on writing. Or this hour, I'm gonna work on mixing some stuff we recorded. Or I'm gonna work on, because everything that we do now is I'm self-producing, and so or whatever, editing, mixing, content. I mean, there's a lot that goes into it now. But however, that it's also it's a gift that we have the ability to do it all on our own now, because it wasn't always like that, right? And so now, man, it's like you can do it all on your own.
Man.
But you have to do it. You have to do it. That's the
Well, talk to me about your writing, right? They say writing starts with, I'm going to butcher the quote. Music comes from lyric, melody, story, or silence. So when you're writing, of those four, which is informing your songwriting when you sit down to write?
It's not always the same, but probably more than anything, it's probably melody. And so, for instance, a lot of our writing process is Tyler is a very creative guitar player, right? And so so he is like one of those like riff king guitar players, right? He just riffs off like original riffs all day, every day, and he'll just record a clip of just this one little thing that he just came up with, and he'll send it to me. And so a lot of our a lot of the ideas really spark from that. So he'll just send me guitar stuff all the time. Like here's a lick, here's a progression, here's a riff, whatever. And then I will sort of turn that into like a full blown song. And so but so I say melody because it usually is, he's a melodic type of player, you know, with the riffs that he comes up with. And so his guitar melodies usually spark something within me, or a chord progression that I might have played, you know. And so it's not always the same by any means, but yeah, I think melody. And then as I've gotten older, story a lot more, stories become a bigger piece of that. I'll have, you know, used to, I would never go into it like I'm going to write about this, but now I feel like I do. I go into it a little bit more with some concrete ideas, maybe not concrete lyrics, but I rarely ever go into it with lyrics first.
Yeah.
You know, it's always something else, and then I try to go with lyrics from there. But sometimes, man, sometimes you, even like "Mama's on a Moon Kick," you mentioned that from the solo album. That phrase existed before anything else, and so we had
that was yours originally. That wasn't like from like an old.
No, so it's funny.
That particular line is crazy too. I heard it. I'm like,
yeah,
I wish I would have.
I'll tell you about that one if you want.
Yeah.
It's my wife is really into like space and like the solar system, and we're big like Star Wars people, you know, and stuff like that. But I'm not sure exactly. I think my daughter had maybe brought something home from school about the solar system, and we were looking at it with her, and then that led to us Googling stuff and talking about all these different moons and this kind of stuff. And at some point, my wife was so into it, and she was talking to my daughter about it, and it just popped out of my mouth. "Mama's on a Moon Kick," but the song has nothing to do with that. The song is about something totally different. Yeah, and so
more adult themes than
Oh yeah, for sure. And so and then the song is not about my wife at all either. I should definitely say that. But but "Mama's on a Moon Kick" just had such a ring to it. You know, it just rolled off the tongue so well. And as soon as I said it, I immediately said, I've got to put that in a song, you know? And so, but yeah, we rolled with it as the title and everything. But yeah, man. So yeah, to answer the question, it's always a little different as far as the writing process, but most of the time it's Tyler sending me some guitar idea that I go and roll with from there, or just something that some progression I pick out. Yeah.
With you being in the game so long, how would you say your perspective has changed from Kyle in 2000s to Kyle in 2010 to Kyle in the present day? I mean, and the perspective is kind of a little bit too broad. Just like your version of say success, right? We all go in there as the blindly optimistic musician who's going to change the world, and then reality sets in, and then our perspective changes, and it kind of continues to change from year to year.
Early on in my 20s, when we were playing a lot of shows in front of a lot of people, I mean, I really had this fabricated idea of myself, right? You know, I was just yeah, you know, I was your typical 20-something-year-old front man, just acting a fool all the time, talking crazy on stage, the whole nine. And you know, I thought I was bulletproof, you know, honestly. I thought I was bulletproof. And so I think from, you know, whatever, I'm 41, so you know, we'll say 15 years later, you know, my idea of success now is just continuously writing songs that I feel good about, that I like songs that I like, right? And then seeing it through to release, right? I think that's the most important thing. I think there's a lot of people writing songs.
Yeah.
A lot of people writing songs, and a lot of people even recording songs, right? And yes, I realize there's a lot of people releasing songs too, but man, there's so many songs. I don't even want to say songs. There's so many people, either writers or artists, however they identify, that really just never let their stuff see the light of day, you know? And I think the process is really not complete until you put it out there in the world, right? Okay. And for me, that is success. You know, I think if I have created a piece of art, and then I have put that out into the world for others to consume. However, consume is a tricky word, but you know what I mean. And I think at that point, then it's like it's your song, or it's and so for me, that's it, man. And whatever happens from there, I can't control. You know what I mean? I can't control it. I can't control people like it. I can't control people listen to it. I can do work that help the chances of people hearing it, right?
Sure.
But like I can't control really
You
whether
can't
people
control
hear it or not.
sentiment. You know what I mean? You can
No,
frame the narrative, but after that, it belongs to the world,
Yeah, and so whatever happens from there, for me, it would be impossible for me to track my success
Yeah.
on that,
Yeah.
because that's just you're just throwing you're throwing a toothpick into the ocean,
Yeah.
man.
Well,
And so,
there's an ownership dynamic too for the people that really latch on to your music.
yeah,
Like the bands that I love, I refer to them as my bands. Like I was talking to an artist, I
yeah,
didn't even realize the way I said it. I actually said it in probably second to last interview. I was going through the set list and I was like, and something just clicked around the fifth song. And I said to the artist, his name was Rob Tate. I said, he has a song called All My Friends. And I was like, this is when the album became mine. And I said it. And then when I played it back in my head after the interview, I was like, that's dope. Because the albums I love, there's about 2-ish dozen albums that are just my albums. Like I just love them, front to back. And I can point to where on the album they became it's my album now,
yeah, man. And some of them are like
that ownership.
some of them are
It's crazy, right?
yeah, absolutely, man. And some of them are like some albums for me, and I know most music lovers would probably say this, but I mean, life changing, man.
Sure.
Yeah. And it's just when you latch on to something like that, especially when and it happens with singles too, just songs, but man, when it's a full body of work like that, and you just I mean, it's just all killer, no filler, right?
Yeah,
I
right.
mean, just every song is just and I've got a few like that. I've got a few albums like that, man, that have really been important, milestones in my life just from other artists.
And it's not many. There's about 2 dozen, I would say. I was like, don't even run back out and listen to them. It's not going to affect you the way it affected me. They're just my albums. Just let me have them.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear your negative feedback. I don't want to hear how this wasn't better than that one. I was like, these are just my albums and they're mine. And
and that's cool, man.
Yeah.
I used to think success was, just, playing in front of as many people as we could possibly play in front of or whatever, or, selling as many albums as we could possibly sell. But now, man, I'm usually at peace with if we've written a song, we've recorded a song, we've gotten it to the point where we love it, and then it's like we love it enough to just throw it out there into the world. I mean, man, that's it. Like that's at the end of the day, that's what we're all trying to do.
It really is.
And so yeah, man, I'm usually happy at that point, right? And it's like, sure, we do the marketing and we try to get, it in front of eyes and ears, and we do all that, and that's work that has to be done. But you can't measure your success on that,
And there's even a hierarchy on your album. Like I'll put out an album with 10, 11 songs, and I'm like, these songs are done. These songs I'm like particularly proud of. I can't wait to play these. Like they're even within your own body of work, when you got one. It's different. Yeah,
absolutely, man.
Yeah.
And like I said, we sort of hinted on that earlier. I mean, there's just no better feeling than that. And it can be a different processes too. It can be when you first finish writing it. It can be when you in the studio when that magic happens, man. That there's really nothing matches that. I mean, being in front of a big crowd, the people who are watching you that are into it, who really care about what you're doing on stage. That's sort of a different kind of awesome feeling too. But man, when you're in that creative process and you're in the studio or in just even in the writing room, whatever it is, man, when that magic hits, dude, there's nothing in the world better than that.
Now, because you're so close to the music, right? Do you have a hard time listening to music objectively? Like, can you turn your like producer, engineer, musician ears off and just listen to music as a fan still?
I can. Yeah. I'm a big music fan, man. And I even still like I'm always sort of on the hunt for the next thing that I'm really going to dive off into. And I do like, I find myself I've done this with a lot of artists and bands where I discover them later in their journey.
I do that.
And I usually love that because then they'll have this whole catalog that I can go, and I'm very much like a what's the term? Like a completist, right?
Yeah.
So like
Okay.
if I find something that I'm into,
Mhm.
dude,
Yeah.
I'm like
Yeah. I like. Yeah,
all
I
in.
like.
Give
I
me
get
all of it.
obsessed. You know, like I will
Yeah,
allow myself
totally.
to fall in love with an artist, like as like a grown man. I like obsess over like an
Oh,
artist, like
100%.
yeah, like a kid.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I don't know if you know the band Dawes. Are you familiar with the band Dawes?
Yeah.
Okay. So, dude, I don't know how in the
California dudes.
world.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I don't know how because their first album came out in 2009. And I didn't catch on to Dawes, man, until like COVID. And of course, I knew like a couple of the songs, but like, man, I never latched onto it, never had listened to their records. And I don't know, I caught one song in the thick of COVID when I was just sitting around at home all the time. And I was like, hold on a second. What is this band? And dude, I start going back through the Dawes catalog.
Mhm.
And now I'm like the biggest Dawes
Yeah,
fan
and they're
on planet Earth,
they're
dude.
the best.
Like
Yeah.
I mean, we've gone to see him a bunch of times. My daughter loves
Yeah.
their music, and so that's this like cool thing that we have going on. But dude, like when that happens, I love that. Like when I find something and I'm like, oh, they have 10 albums. I'm about to just.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'll tell my family like, hey, you guys are
Yeah.
gonna have to catch me in a
Yeah.
couple
Right.
weeks
Yeah.
after
Yeah.
No, just kidding.
I have
But
homework. Yeah.
yeah, man. So, but that nothing pumps me up, and so that is sort of what I aspire to at this point. I would love to see Flip build out a large catalog like that, and for it to just be there, man, for it to just be there. And maybe, if at times some, knucklehead like me stumbles upon it, and something clicks with them on one of these songs, and they go diving through the catalog,
Mhm.
and they have those type of feelings that I had, like when I discovered Dawes or whatever,
Yeah.
and
That'd be
so
cool.
I would love it. That's really the goal with Flip, man, is
Mhm.
for 2, 3, 4 years from now, for when folks pull it up on the Spotify page or whatever it is, there's a stack of songs on there that they can live with, and that they can just dive into and see what's going on in there.
There's something about art for art's sake, because you got to be careful with art, because some people will be like, I'm just making art, this avant-garde weird art just to make stuff. And then there's an idea of I'm making a qualitative body of work for myself. Yes, I'm holding I'm using objective standards to create quality in this body of work. So I'm grading myself, and I'm being strict, and I'm being deliberate, and I'm being diligent, but I'm still creating this body of work for myself. And it's something
Yeah,
about leaving like that little stamp on the planet, like in perpetuity, which is like beautiful. And unless you're creative, you won't really quite get it.
you nailed it. I mean, you nailed exactly what my mindset is when it comes to doing this. I mean, that's exactly what it is. This is what I know how to do. It's what I love to do,
Mhm.
and it is one way that I feel like I'm contributing somehow to the universe, right? And even if it's not, when I say the universe, I don't mean
Yeah.
for everyone or for everything, but I just mean like this is, you said leaving your stamp. I think that's a good way to put it. But, I think that's what it is for me, man. It's just like, this is, you know, there's a, do you know Theo Katzman? Are you familiar with
No,
Theo
sorry.
Katzman?
No.
He's a guy. You know the band Wolfpack.
Yeah.
A lot of
I
people
know
know.
Wolfpack.
Okay, so Theo is in Wolfpack,
Okay.
but he also has like a solo career
Okay.
as well. But man, Theo has a song. It's called "100 Years from Now," and the last line of the song is like 100 years from now, remember all new people. All new people, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Right.
so it's just crazy, we're just this little blip on the radar, man,
Yeah.
and there's just, it's a big, big universe out there. And we're just a small, tiny little dot, for just a little while. And so if you make art of any kind and you can, like I said, complete that process of putting it out there into the world, man, that's it's rewarding. It's rewarding even if you don't see monetary success from it, if you don't see whatever fame, fortune, none of that, man. Like you're doing something that the world needs. And even if it seems like the world doesn't need it right now, if some dumb kid stumbles across it, you know what I mean? And it just like blows their mind, or if it like speaks to them in a way that it's like something they need to hear, that helps them, even if it just helps them get through the day, man. It's just like, dude, that's like, you're doing it.
Impact at the macro level, then like impact at the micro level. Like that one sad dude in Austin, Texas, that opens up this track that opens it up like I'm like it's the 90s, but like listens to some track and they're like, oh my God, I had no idea somebody else felt like this.
That's it, man.
That's it.
And even if they're interpreting it completely different, that still matters. It matters, and if it matters at all, it matters.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying. And so I think,
dude, say that if it matters at all, it matters. Dude, I love that.
That's it.
Never heard anybody say that. Love that line.
Yeah, and honestly, even if it only matters to you, it matters, right?
Okay.
And so, but if it matters at all to anyone else, even if it's just one person, even if it's just one of your songs, it doesn't, man, if it matters, it matters, and I mean, for me, I mean, I know we keep sort of circling back to that, but like, that's where it's at for me. And, and for my, Tyler's the same way, we could be more on the same page as far as, what we are hoping to do with this or to get out of this, right? And it's just man, we're just trying to write good songs, make good music, and have a good time doing it.
You got a hell of a head start with those first two, man. So I can't wait to see what comes out of that out of the Flip the Mule camp.
Thanks.
So
thanks,
buddy, what's the best way that we can support you? Can you give us addresses, sites? Let us know real fast. I can't believe how fast the time went, by the way. It's kind of a good interview, right? No.
Been good talk.
Yeah,
man.
But how do we support you? Can you give us all your info real quick?
Yeah, Flip the Mule, because it's so brand new, right? Every little bit sort of helps us keep that momentum going. So, following us on Spotify, subscribing on YouTube, and following us on Instagram. Those are really sort of the three platforms that we're living on right now. But yeah, Spotify, YouTube, and Instagram. Of course, we're everywhere else too. If you don't use Spotify, if you use Apple or whatever, that's totally fine too. But yeah, man, if you're active on Spotify, if you follow us, save those songs, every little bit of that helps, right? And it's a strange world. All that world is a strange world, especially for a geezer like me, right? And so man. And so like, I've been really trying to figure it out, because again, when you take, I took some time off from really doing this. And when I got back in, like streaming had taken over and it was just like, I don't know anything about this. Right. And so having to learn that, man, has been a wild thing. And then it's just every time you turn around, there's a new platform and you got to learn that.
Yeah, right.
But we don't really. We're not trying to.
We're going to get lapped by the young guys indefinitely.
Yeah, man. And I think don't try to trip the algorithm. You know what I mean? Don't try to. And I'm speaking to artists at this point, but it's just like, man, just be yourself.
Yeah,
just be yourself. Just do your thing, and it'll you're. But if you stay consistent, I think your crowd will find you.
I believe in that. Absolutely.
Follow us on Spotify, subscribe on YouTube. If you see something or hear something that you like it or save it, whatever that is, that helps out a ton. And we appreciate that. Instagram, we're pretty active on Instagram. And so if you really want to keep up with us on a day-to-day basis, I would say Instagram would be the place to do it.
All right. Well, you guys heard it here first. Make sure you check out Flip the Mule, check out Our Old House and Cool by Flip the Mule. 2 incredible songs. Make sure you check out Kyle. Make sure you follow all things Flip the Mule. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Kyle, thank you from the bottom of my heart for sharing your life and your music with us. And the rest of you, see you next Thursday.